If I live in love, then I'm always investing myself in the future of another. Let me say that again. If I live in love, I am always investing myself in the future of another. That's a quote from an author I've been reading lately. Her name is Ilia Delio. She's a Franciscan nun. My speech to text spelled that N-O-N-E, not N-U-N, which means my computer knows I live in Seattle. Anyway, Sister Delio is the founder of the Center for Christogenesis at Georgetown University and an endowed chair of theology at Villanova University. And if any of you have money burning a hole in your pocket, let me know, because we might be able to convince her to come here sometime to teach and preach. Anyway, to my mind, she's one of the most interesting theologians out there today, because of the work that she is doing in thinking about how Christianity is united, particularly Trinitarian Christianity, is united with evolution and quantum mechanics. And she also thinks deeply about how humanity may thrive in the coming age of artificial intelligence. So you can see why I like her so much. Anyway, one of her emphases in a book I've read of hers recently called The Not Yet God, she emphasized is this movement of thought, Christian thought, from the God in the sky kind of God, where we come to church every Sunday morning, we sit in the pews, and we pretend to be living in like the 13th or 14th century. Right, where there's this God way out there who reaches into the world right here every now and then, and he pokes us a little bit in a particular direction, or if necessary, shoots a storm across our bow, either personally or atmospherically, to get our attention, or to punish us, and then to not tell us why. And Sister Delio thinks that God is bizarro, and so do I. What Sister Delio wants us to see is that God's creation is in process, and that's code for evolution, right? God's creation is in the process of perpetually becoming what it could ideally be through our co-creative, entangled engagement with God. So there's this quantum entanglement going on, which is the scientific-ish way of saying perpetual relational totality, and perpetual relational totality is the definition of relata. I got it from Ilia Delio. I'll preach about that at some future point, okay? Okay, no takers? So I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to preach about it, that's for sure. Anyway, let's back to Sister Delio. She writes, "The God in the sky story is of a perfect God out there somewhere, a God unaffected by Earth's dysfunction. And here lives fallen humanity in need of saving. This is a story of division and dislocation and dependence and maybe even dysfunction." Delio continues, "It's time to tell a new story of the relational whole, a story of a living God in relationship with a living world, which is a story of a God who is as yet incomplete, a not yet God, an evolving God who co-creates with us who are also as yet incomplete." She continues, "When we fall in love with the world, this love draws God and us into a unitive life. God is born, or shall I say, God becomes evident, and we become God and God becomes us as communal relational totality. Us and God are a complete union of love, revealed in space and time, revealed in this material world that is yearning, this world is yearning to become what God imagines it can be. This world is yearning to become what God created it to be. And what is birthed into this new world, this co-creative world, is you. It is the you that reveals within you the person of Jesus. Because you can be like Jesus. In fact, you were made to be like Jesus. Jesus came into the world to show us that we can be like him. Jesus came into the world to teach us how we can be like him. And then what did he do? He ascended. He ascended to make room for us to be like him in the world. You with me? If you doubt me, let's ask Jesus. And I quote, I have set an example that you should do as I have done for you. And I quote again, a disciple is not above the teacher, but everyone, when fully trained, will become like the teacher. That's from Luke. And I quote again, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater works than these. That's from John. And I quote again, anyone who loves me will obey my teaching, and my Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home in their midst. It's from John as well. So look around. This is the home of God. Jesus isn't out there. Jesus is right here. Jesus is sitting with you in the pews. Which put a lot of pressure on me to preach today. Now, Jesus has always been a co-creative partner with humanity. The incarnation is the very definition of this Jesus in the world with us. His name makes that point. What's his name? Emmanuel, God with us. The choir knows that. But it seems we want an easier way. We want to put it up all on God. Right? We want to pretend that God's out there, far, far away, looking in every once in a while, poking us in a particular direction. We want to pretend that Jesus is some Superman flying around that we turn to, that we need to come in and save us. Right? That is the easier way. That's the old story. That's a story they told a long time ago when they didn't understand the weather, when they didn't understand how things came into being, when they didn't understand the created order in which we live. Co-creative collaboration with God requires that we own our power by employing words like Ilio DeLeo shared with us today. If I live in love, then I am always investing myself in the future of another. You with me? Let me give you an example of that. Comes right out of the gospel reading today. Because we find Jesus today investing in the future of two women. Right, it's a co-creative investment we see unfold, and it happens in two very distinctive ways. One is a communal imperative, and the other comes about through individual agency. For the young girl, it was the community's imperative to care for her. They were the ones who called out to Jesus and asked him to come heal her. The community believed in his power and co-created with Jesus by inviting him into that space to do what he was particularly good at doing. Had there been no invitation from the community, there would have been no resuscitation of the young girl, and she would have had no future. They were all invested in the future of this young girl. You see, investing in children is a communal imperative. Investing in children is a communal responsibility. It is a communal duty to work with God as partners to care for children. Jesus brought this young girl back to life, and she went on to live her life. We never found out her name. Had she died, maybe we would have learned her name. Sometimes it takes the death of a child to write their name upon our hearts. And when we read that, it compels us to better care for other children. Name that I hope is written on our hearts is Amar Murphy Payne. You've heard that name? Young man who was shot at Garfield High School the other day. As co-creators with God, investing in the future of all children, it seems that at the very least, we should be terribly concerned about creating environments, safe environments, in which young people can thrive. All young people can thrive. Some say that means doing a better job in teaching third graders to read. Really, it's probably true. Some say we need to get guns off the streets. It's probably true as well. The more cynical or hard-hearted might say that those battles are lost causes. We're just not going to be able to do it, they'll say. But I'll tell you one person who wouldn't say that. Her name's Veronica. Maybe you didn't know that was the name of the woman who had suffered with chronic hemorrhages for 12 years. That's what tradition tells us her name was Veronica. And Veronica decided to co-create with God to change her life. And so she decided, when she found out about Jesus, she went to Jesus, she had heard about him, she reached out to Jesus, decided to co-create with Jesus to change her life. And through that faith, Jesus tells her, and through the power of the Holy Spirit, she was healed. Now, everyone at the time, for 12 years, they said her cause was a lost cause. It's a worthless cause. They took her money. Oh, they were happy to take her money. But when she ran out of money, and she had a lot, when she ran out of money, they abandoned her. But she believed that through an encounter with the living God, right, things could be different. She could be healed. Her future could be different. She believed that through her relationship with God. And so she co-created with Jesus. She got in there with Jesus, and things changed. But the change, this is what God does. The change was greater than anything that she could imagine. Because not only was her hemorrhage healed, but Veronica became the kind of person who from that day forward was willing to invest in anyone's future, no matter how bleak that future might look. Turns out that on the day that Jesus was carrying his cross, so bloody and beaten and battered and broken, when he was carrying that cross through the cobblestone streets of Jerusalem on his way to Golgotha, guess who was there? Tradition tells us that Veronica was there. And seeing that man coming down the street, broken and beat, stumbling, falling down, moving towards his death, minutes away from that, what did Veronica do? She came out of her house and she took a handkerchief that she had and she bent down and she wiped his face. She invested in the future of a man who had no future at all. And by her love, the face of our Lord ended up on that handkerchief. And they say it's still around. It's known as the Shroud of Turin. And that shroud is an emblem of love, given in perpetuity as a symbol of what it means to live in love, by always investing ourselves in the future of someone else. Love invested changes lives. Love invested changes the world. Love never ends. Love wins in the end. The bad thing is never the last thing, as long as we never stop investing in the future of somebody else. We'll end here with that. And I'll leave you with where we started, to contemplate Sister DeLeo's invitation. If we live in love, then we are always investing ourselves in the future of another.